Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the How to Survive podcast. My name's Chris and I'm joined as ever by Joe.
Hello, Chris. I resent the fact that you get top billing. I think if there's ever any posters made, we should get diagonal billing in order to keep everyone happy.
Well, more on that later if you don't know what Joe's talking about. We find ourselves, Joe, in a sort of low-level high-rise building, if there is such a thing, with a glass window.
I guess one of the tallest in West London, but that's not saying much.
No, not at all. But it's very appropriate for this week's film. It is, of course, John Guillermin and Irwin Allen's 1974 disaster film, The Towering Inferno. And this kicks off 2 weeks of classic disaster films, covering The Towering Inferno this week and The Poseidon Adventure, another Irwin Allen film, next week. The Towering Inferno, of course, about a fire in a skyscraper. And if you haven't seen The Towering Inferno, you've had a mere 42 years to do so. So if you want to avoid spoilers, then pause the podcast, go away, watch it, meet us back here, and we'll have a breakdown of how you'd survive.
Yeah, and insights that you wouldn't have arrived at on your own.
It would have been impossible to arrive at such insight without our prompting. So let's kick off with a synopsis of the film.
Just a recap in case you haven't seen it in 42 years.
Yeah, so I don't think we're going to go into too much detail because this film has a really long running time and a massive cast of characters.
Yes.
But the basics are that Paul Newman plays an architect called Doug Roberts who returns to San Francisco to oversee the opening of a skyscraper he's designed, which is set to be at 138 floors, the tallest building in the world. Owned by businessman James Duncan, whose son-in-law is the electrical engineer for the building. There's set to be a huge party to open the building, and anyone who's anyone is there, including the senator and the mayor of San Francisco himself. The party gets underway, but unbeknownst to them, there's a small fire raging on the 81st floor, which is growing out of control, and it seems to be due to faulty electrics.
I mean, you say seems to. That's not a suggestion.
No.
It's explicitly...
Yeah. There's a fuse box that's seen overloading and causing a fire.
It explodes onto tissue paper, balled up tissue paper, which is next to these these cylinders that are marked with like inflammable gas inside as well. Yeah.
So the first indication that all may not be up to the safety standards in the building.
No.
Head of security Harry Jernigan, played by O.J. Simpson, discovers the fire and calls the local fire department, headed up by Chief Mike O'Halloran.
Steve McQueen.
He
He doesn't show up till like an hour in.
Yeah, it's 45
minutes,
isn't it? Because there's quite a lot of character set up at the start of the film. Because the film's 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
Right, so it's a very long film. And there's a lot of character development at the start, basically like front-loaded.
Yeah.
So where we meet Doug Roberts, we meet his wife.
Mm-hmm. We meet the owner. We meet the owner's son-in-law, who's this like moustache twirling, good for nothing.
Yeah.
And his wife, obviously, the owner's daughter.
Hmm.
And then it's not until the fire's actually started that we meet Steve McQueen's character.
Yeah, when he turns up essentially to head the effort to save the day.
Exactly.
So the fire blazes out of control ever further, and a few people lose their lives. On the 65th floor, Dan Bigelow, the building's press officer, who was the man who was instructed to turn on all the building's lights in order to show the building off to the city, which is what caused the electrical overload, is there with his mistress, having a rendezvous before the party.
Yeah, it's very shady.
Yeah, and they get trapped by the fire and are really the sort of first character victims.
The first named characters.
Yeah, who die, and they succumb to the fire in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, they begin to evacuate from the floor the party is being held on, which is the top floor, which is about 50 floors up from where the fire started.
Yeah.
So the fire is now going up and down, and the fire brigade are trying to battle it to keep it at bay, but to little effect, really.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more of a desperate situation. They tried several different methods of getting people out. They tried to use the express elevators, which conveniently end up stopping on the floor that the fire is on, killing a whole group of people.
Yeah.
They try going downstairs, but the stairs collapse. They try airlifting people off the roof via helicopter, and the helicopter dramatically crashes.
For no reason.
And then the Navy arrive with what's known as a breeches buoy, which is basically like a small one-person gondola on a rope.
Yeah. By gondola you mean chairlift, not a big barge with a a punt.
No, that's true.
And by punt, I mean a big stick, not a kick.
Yeah. So they fire this rope across to the building from an adjacent rooftop, or as close as you can get when it's the tallest building in the world. And one by one, they start evacuating people out of the party room by this incredibly dangerous-looking hanging seat. Then they try and use a gravity brake on one of the lifts, but that goes horribly wrong, resulting in a helicopter coming and lifting the elevator wholesale off the side of the building and to safety on the ground below. Eventually, the plan to put out the fire is to blow up the water tanks on the roof, which then will flood the fire. Steve McQueen, Chief O'Halloran, is the one, unsurprisingly, to volunteer, along with Paul Newman's character, Doug Roberts. They go up, they set the explosives. It's successful in putting out the fire at the cost of a few more people's lives, and the fire is extinguished. And that is the end of the Towering Inferno.
Yeah, and Paul Newman says he's off to have a well-earned sleep.
Yeah, well, it's so like we've given quite a brief précis of the film's events because there are so many characters.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
We've got Steve McQueen and Paul Newman. Fred Astaire is there as Harley Claiborne, who's a sort of con man who's conning Lizalette Mueller, who's played by Jennifer Jones.
Yeah, who takes a plunge out of the scenic elevator.
Yeah, well, more on that later, yeah. O.J. Simpson plays the building's head of security, who's one of the people to discover a fire, and he also rescues a cat later on in the film. And then we have a host of other actors, including Faye Dunaway, who plays Doug's wife, or fiancée, I should say.
So what did you think of the film?
I thought it was really good. Yeah, I thought it's because it's widely known as a classic, right?
Yeah, I think widely considered one of the great disaster films of the 70s. There was a big run of them. I think even Roger Ebert, Chris, as if he's a person who doesn't like films. But it's his favourite disaster film of the 70s, and I can see why, I suppose.
Yeah, I think this is... I mean, it's difficult without knowing the sort of cultural context of the time, but I assume this is like as close as you could get to like an all-star cast.
Yeah.
Like, Steve McQueen is obviously a massive icon, even now.
Yeah, exactly.
And Paul Newman, similarly, I guess less iconic, but a very well-respected actor.
At the time, he was probably the big boy, right?
Yeah, well, like you said, there's the whole diagonal billing thing.
Yeah.
And if anyone's not heard about this, basically Steve McQueen and Paul Newman both wanted first billing.
Yeah, and their contracts stated as much. So they both had to have top billing.
Yeah. And so to get around this, the production company, for all the advertising and posters, arranged their credits diagonally. So if one was reading left to right, you'd see Steve McQueen's name, and if you were reading top to bottom, you'd see Paul Newman's name first. They also did this in the trailer, and this is basically the worst graphic design thing you've ever seen.
Yeah, because then Faye Dunaway's name is off kilter next to that as well.
Exactly, it's like a weird sort of inverted Nike tick, like arrangement.
Do look it up. Look up the Towering Inferno poster if you want to go to laugh.
Yeah, because it's. I don't know if you would have noticed it at the time, but looking at it now, like knowing the whole story, it's just like that just looks awful.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really strange.
Their contracts were equally bizarre, down to the fact that they had to have the same number of lines.
Yeah, so they had to have the same number of lines, and Paul Newman expressed regret after completing the film because he said he fell for the numbers, right?
Yeah. Because both of his lines are in the opening 45 before Steve McQueen even shows up.
Yeah, and then Steve McQueen basically shows up and gets to save the day.
Yeah.
And Paul Newman's sort of... Well, I personally think that Paul Newman's character, Doug, is the more interesting character.
Yeah, because he's the one who's got like a vested interest in the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's an interesting like sort of rivalry between the characters as well as the actors because, there's a number of scenes in which Steve McQueen's character is saying, you never talk to us, we never consult with us about when you build these things. And, they become a fire death trap, basically.
Yeah, so speak to a fireman before you build a flammable building.
Yeah, basically. Which is something that he says he will do next time at the end of the film.
Next time he builds the world's biggest building.
Yeah, exactly. Although I have to say, Paul Newman's line... about what they're going to do with the tower is so... I don't know if it's like a sign of the times or something, but I just thought it was like the most cringeworthy line, certainly the whole film, where he says someone asks him, what do you think they'll do with it? And he goes, I don't know. Maybe they'll leave it standing as a monument to all the bullshit in the world.
Paul Newman says that.
Yeah. So it's like
the guy who designed it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's like he's suddenly in like a A-level drama project about angsty teens. Like, all the bullshit in the world.
Do you buy Paul Newman is an architect?
Yeah. I don't know.
With amazing upper body strength.
Yeah, he works out. It's fine. What's wrong with that?
I can understand. Like Steve McQueen, a fireman, fine. Because a fireman has to be strong.
Well, Steve McQueen's sort of like brawny, isn't he? He's like dad fit. Do you know what I mean? Like just from like lifting things.
What I liked about him is in that last scene where he's wearing like a hazmat fire protection suit, he takes it all off and he's still wearing a tie. He's always smart.
That's probably in his contract as well.
Yeah,
always has to be wearing a tie.
Immaculate.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought it was a really good film. I think it's like an epic film, right?
Yeah,
and you most often associate epic cinema with like a western or something where they're traversing like a big landscape.
Yes,
and it's interesting because this is like traversing a vertical thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like going
the journey is vertical, down the building rather than
up or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was really good, and I can see why it's considered a classic. Mm-hmm. And you know, even though we've mentioned a few times how long it is, I don't think it dragged.
There was one part I thought they could have condensed because I'm like, maybe it's just 'cause I mean, we're doing the Poseidon Adventure next week, and I watched that the same day, like an hour before I watched the Towering Inferno. So by this time, I was like, another disaster movie set piece. I mean, maybe that's what happened, but it was quite draggy anyway when they had the stairway collapses and Paul Newman has to sort of help everyone get down it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God, it's cuts at the end.
You have to, there's, although, yeah.
You get to show off his upper body strength, as we said. But
yeah, that's true.
But then
fair play to him.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
That was probably in his contract as well.
Yeah.
If I was Paul Newman, I'd be like, exerting, like making loads of exertion noises and then counting them as lines, like after the film, going, oh yeah, that was a line. Yeah, definitely. I had more lines.
Or just refuse to have any lines
until like
the last 15 minutes when you get a soliloquy.
But Steve, like both Paul Newman and Steve McQueen are very good. Like the whole cast is great.
Yeah,
but Steve McQueen, something struck me as a bit odd is that he doesn't look like he's actually in a fire. Do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't look like he's actually there.
He looks like he's just annoyed.
Yeah, it's like he there's a scene where they're crouching in the elevator shaft and they're trying to like figure out how they're going to get down, and they're like, we're going to have to rappel down we're going to have to abseil down the thing. And he's just like sat there. There's no like, it's almost like if you look at his face, it doesn't look like he doesn't have the face of a man who's like stood on the edge of a precipice. Yeah, it's like he's just sat in a bar or whatever. It's like he's done this so many times, which might be like a character trait, but to me it just looked like
he doesn't care.
Yeah, like he doesn't really, like he's more concerned with like looking suave than he is actually looking like a character who's in a real situation. Yeah, whereas Paul Newman, like he looks scared a lot of the time.
I enjoyed Paul Newman's performance more probably.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the set, obviously, like the effects are stunning. Like the matte paintings and the various like the various models they made of the explosion stuff. Those are all like astounding. Yeah. But the sets when they're like running around when there's a fire, they look so tacky. It's
really?
Like Doctor Who.
I didn't really notice.
Because I mean, you're meant to be in a raging fire. Right?
Yeah,
it's an inferno, and there's like 3 shelves that are like like Bunsen burners.
Yeah. There's an element of that. Yeah, like everything is flammable to the same degree.
Like I'm aware that this is good how to survive stuff for general life, listener. If you're in a house or any building and there's a fire started and it doesn't burn itself out within 7 seconds, it's not going to, and you have to evacuate.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, the downstairs fire, the one that starts it all. That must be burning for a good 15 hours before anyone notices. It's like the morning when they're trying to like call the electrician, they can't get hold of him. And by the time like the evening's come, they've opened the building, they've gone up past the fire, they've got everyone up to the top, and then they're, oh wait, hang on, did you smell smoke? And that must have been raging in one room with a limited fuel source for the whole day.
Well, it's like, how much fuel could have been in there? Yeah. But that's to me, if that's the case, then early How to Survive tip: just don't open the door because it'll just stay in there.
They do say that, don't they? Just like don't open the door, and as soon as he opens it, the guy gets like burnt to death.
It's true. Yeah, he's like the first casualty.
Yeah.
There are a lot of side characters as well, as we said, and actually I think they're all really well like
Fleshed out.
Yeah, exactly. They're really like well drawn characters. The Dan Bigelow and his mistress.
Yeah.
They are characters. Even though they're in maybe 2 scenes,
They've got some corny lines. If I ever take you for granted, cut the phones. That's some nonsense. Like
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But they are, I think, quite. I think their deaths are very affecting emotionally.
Yeah.
And it's quite tragic. And they're the first sort of, like we said, side characters to die.
He's a mug though, because he picks up the phone, pretends that he's called the fire department, rather than like planning an escape. Because there's no way you can look out the goat and go, "Oh, our goose is definitely cooked."
Yeah.
What do you think fire does? It spreads really, really quickly. That's what. Can I just establish something now for this discussion?
Sure.
Is there like physics in this film where you have to go, okay, the fire burns a little more slowly than it would in real life? Because they'll be in a room with fire, which would just engulf them. Like,
well,
the temperature of the room, the beams would be alight.
Yeah. But he which bit in particular are you talking about?
Well, that's one.
Well, because he does get engulfed by fire, like immediately.
Yeah.
When he runs out into the room.
Okay, how about when he rescues the children from that room?
Yeah.
That room is ablaze, and he just like wanders in.
I think that's not as ablaze. Like I take your point. Yeah.
If it was any ablaze, it would be all ablaze.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Well, not necessarily. If it's like only just reached that room or something, presumably.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got seconds.
Well, is that how it works? Like, would it spread across the whole room?
It wouldn't like.
Are you fire marshal?
I'm just saying, fire doesn't mess around, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, we should have watched this with a firefighter and asked their opinion on the.
I was tempted to call the fire brigade and ask them what they thought, but I thought that would have been a waste of emergency services time. Maybe next time.
But I think those 2 deaths, Dan Bigelow and his mistress, they're quite dramatic and quite horrible. Yeah. And it sort of sets the idea that they're not messing around.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be anyone could die sort of thing.
Yeah. It's pretty. Bit heartbreaking. One thing I would say is that being able to run 100 metres does not equate with being able to resist fire.
No, it doesn't. I guess he means he'd be spry, but
physics doesn't work like the fire's not. It's not like the fire's got to catch you.
No, like you go in a hot room, you're going to burn.
Yeah, but more on that later. Another side character whose death was quite sad. Carlos, the bartender.
Yeah. How did he? He drowned, right?
No, he gets crushed by a statue.
Oh, that's him.
When, because he's another character who's like, he's not really given much to do. Many lines or many scenes.
I completely agree, because I remember thinking, like, he's authentic.
Yeah.
Because he gives the kids, like, the
milkshakes.
Yeah, and he's like laughing and joking with everyone. Everyone keeps calling him by name. And he is involved in scenes, though he's not, like, necessarily a plot character. Yeah,
like he's a sort of like we said, a side character who is well drawn enough to be memorable, and it seems like a particularly like harsh gut punch for him to be so close to being rescued.
Yeah, and just crushed. And Fred Astaire's Mrs. Mueller, she falls out of that elevator. Yeah, and it's not like you can assume she falls into the building, catches fire. Yeah, it's really brutal.
Yeah, but she dies saving the children.
Yes,
right?
Yeah,
like because she pushes them back into the lift.
Yeah, and then the fireman grabs them.
Yeah,
but still,
yeah, it's
poor,
not
poor old Fred Astaire.
I know, yeah,
because minutes before he was like, "Listen, I'm a con artist. I'm out to con you all your money, and I'm a horrible, horrible person."
And she's like,
"I don't mind."
Yeah. She's a sap, basically. Is that what you're saying?
Much like the rest of the women in this movie and next week's movie. Is it a thing about 70s disaster movies where the gender politics have to be like men are men and women are fine with that?
Yeah, I don't know really. But then like the one character who's not, your manly man, is Roger Simmons, played by Richard Chamberlain,
Right, yeah.
who's the son-in-law.
Yeah.
I mean,
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, he's like the posh, foppish.
Yeah.
He's very much the antithesis of both Paul Newman and Stephen Quinn's
he's
characters.
bratty, isn't he?
Yeah, and selfish, as we see by his demise.
Yes.
Like, he's the classic person in a disaster film, selfishly tries to save themselves at the expense of others, and ends up dying as a result. Interesting that he kicks the senator out of the chair.
Yeah.
He's one of the senators holding on to the chair, and he boots him off. And the mayor dies in the
flood.
In the flood as well.
Yeah.
So it's a very bad day for American politics in the San
Yeah.
Francisco Bay Area.
It's a bad day for everyone, really.
It is. It's not. It's not.
No one's going to be celebrating or anything.
No. And all the deaths are like very public as well. There's lots of people like falling out of the building on fire, like
getting crushed in front of people.
like it's all very unpleasant.
Yeah. Grisly.
Yeah.
You mentioned Roger Simmons' demise on what you called earlier the Breaches Boy.
Yeah.
So that's a real thing. That's got a name that you haven't made up. That's real.
No, that's real. So at one point the Navy arrive.
Yes.
So a breeches buoy is to get people off of stricken ships.
Okay.
So to get them from one ship to another,
Right.
They climb into this thing and get pulleyed across.
Stricken ship, you see.
Yeah,
Poseidon Adventures next week.
He's just taking some notes. So that's what they're used for, and obviously they're repurposing it.
Yeah.
After the helicopter disaster.
What was that about?
So, my understanding is that it's about to land, and then people charge at the helicopter in order to try and get on first.
Yeah,
and
I get that.
And it panics the pilot, who then crashes.
But he just go up. He just veers it into the wall.
Well, an early survival tip is from me to the fire department of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Is don't get helicopter pilots who are easily startled or panicked.
Yeah.
Just by the sight of people.
They're running towards us. Just
Yeah.
to the point of you lose all sense of where you are. Yeah.
And just plough into the building.
Absolutely.
Because presumably the only reason that you would take evasive action, because the people aren't a threat.
No.
So the only reason you take evasive action is because you don't want to hit them with the helicopter, land on them, chop them with the blades or whatever.
Yeah. But you don't. I mean, it's like
to preserve their lives, the last thing you want to do is crash the helicopter into them and onto the building that they're standing on.
Yeah. Well, the only ones that die are the people in the helicopter. The others are completely unscathed.
Yeah.
Bizarre. But that said, the gondola, the Beaches Boy, it does work. That is an established, effective way of saving people's lives.
Yeah, effective is debatable.
Effective for the time it's used. I mean,
but you can only do one at a time. So if you're trying to save, unless you have, they should have got like 15 on the go.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
Although when it fails is because there's an explosion on the building.
Yeah.
Which
not because it's necessarily overloaded with weight.
No. Well, although that is presumably an issue as well.
Yeah.
Because Simmons gets on there, as do a number of other people.
But he didn't need to kick them off. He's just a dick.
Yeah, well, he's just trying to...
Yeah. He's not a team player.
The thing is, as well, is if he survives, the rooftop opposite is presumably full of policemen, Navy officials and stuff. They're going to go, well, you're a murderer.
We just saw you murder us.
Yeah, you just murdered 4 people.
You murdered a senator and the mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so he's in trouble, even if he did make it to the other side.
Yeah, but it does work. So if we can use that in our survival methods,
yeah,
why not?
Last word on the Breaches Buoy, would that not be the worst thing ever?
Or being
to do
very slowly.
Imagine being 2,000 feet up in the sky.
Yeah,
you're next to a building that's on fire. It's windy, and all
there's
you've
a
got is
helicopter holding you up,
and it's all you've got is a seatbelt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking out the window now, and we're in a tall building.
Yeah, it's not even that tall.
No,
there are some houses that are probably taller than the building we're in.
Yeah,
you wouldn't want it.
No,
even at this height.
No,
certainly not over 20 times the height of this building.
I mean, that's not going to kill you unless you've got a very weak constitution.
Yeah.
Well, the fall would kill you, but
the fall would kill you. Yeah. As we see from Simmons, who his wife her dad like drags her away from looking at what presumably is what's left of him on the ground.
I didn't want you to see him.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't try very hard to prevent it.
Yeah.
The way they do actually solve the issue of the fire is, as any of us with any knowledge of elements would do, with the water, which is a bit Deus Ex water tank, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I mean, like, again, a sort of, maybe this is an early How to Survive idea. You know when there's forest fires going on and they have those helicopters with the giant
big
water
buckets.
tanks?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they, could they not do that?
It's right by the coast as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how readily available the...
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but San Francisco, California area, there's a lot of forest fires.
But did the Forestry Commission and the Fire Department and the Navy have access to that equipment in 1972? Or 1974 for that matter?
Yeah, well, that's the question, isn't it? I don't know.
Because the fireman, Steve McQueen, seemed pretty insistent that he can only fight a fire 7 floors up. That's the maximum. Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if that's changed as well since.
Because I mean, I assume that means from the outside shooting jets up, not.
Yeah,
not
well,
like,
I mean, like they don't seem hopeful anyway, do they? I mean, the two firemen who are on the roof of the fire engine as they go into the fire in the initial stages of the film are talking about where, they realise where they're going, and then one of them says, "Have you ever fought a fire in a high rise? Is it as bad as they say?" And he says, "Oh, it's hell. Oh, it's really bad." I'm paraphrasing. So like they don't seem hopeful that it's almost like a suicide mission, isn't it? Like,
but the firemen in this are painted in a very, very, very positive light.
Yeah, and
even in the beginning it says like this is dedicated to all the firemen who risk their lives. And there's that scene when
what about all the architects?
the backup firemen arrive, and he's like, "We need volunteers to go up. I need 2 of you to go up," and they all step forward together. Yeah. And it's like, oh, Steve McQueen's so proud, he always wipes a tear from his eye. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But I mean, coming back to the water tanks for 1 second. Those are 6 water tanks, which are 1 million gallons each. That's correct.
Yep.
6 million gallons, Chris, is 27,276,540 litres. Okay. Which means it's 27,276,540 kilograms.
Right.
Which is 30,067 tons.
Okay.
I'm just going to say that again.
Yeah, but it's not... I know what you're about to get at, which is why doesn't the water just crush the people?
No, I'm not getting at that.
Okay.
I'm getting at, if you've got enough water on the roof to fill 14 Olympic swimming pools, and it weighs as much as 10,000 Sherman tanks, and it weighs the same as 2/3 of the Titanic, why the fuck didn't you know it was there before?
You would have thought the architect would have known.
Yeah.
The architect who is consulted on how to stop the fire.
They had the blueprints. They go, what's, these massive tanks on the roof? I mean, these are 1 million gallon tanks. What's in them?
Oh, I don't know, mate. It's probably just like... It might be more fire. Is it more fire?
It might
be petrol.
I mean, are there any taps up there, What we want is water, because that's the enemy of fire.
I wouldn't want to guess in this scenario, because if it's more fire, then I'm going to look like an idiot. Aren't I?
Famously can't fight fire with fire, can you?
It's true. Yeah.
Or maybe it's the building regulations were being like the corners are being cut. Maybe those were supposed to be in the basement, and
why would it be cheaper to
the owner
mount
put them in the roof?
Why would it be cheaper to mount them? Because why would you have them on the roof anyway?
I don't think they're actually on the roof. I think they're
on the 135th floor. Yeah. Why would you have them there anyway? What's the purpose if not to potentially fight a fire?
Well, my assumption would be that it collects rainwater, brings it down to a filtration system, and it's easier to run it down the inside of the building on a gravity system.
Yeah, but it can't be totally plumbed in California by rain.
No.
And he wouldn't get millions of 5 millions of ton... 6 million tons of water from rainfall.
No, you wouldn't. 6 million gallons, Chris. So it's actually 27 million tons.
All right, mate.
No, 30,000 tons. Yeah. Look, all I'm saying is, and the weight of that as well, because... And I don't mean the weight of I know you think I'm going to say the weight of the water would crush the water to death, which isn't necessarily true. But the weight of that structure it's 30,000 tons. That's just the water, not the tanks containing those. How that you'd have to be It would be an engineering marvel to build something that can support that weight.
Well, they did it, Joe.
They didn't do it.
They did it. It's in the film, which, as we all know, makes it true.
Okay. You know, I never expected to see in my entire life a movie that co-starred Fred Astaire and O.J. Simpson.
Yeah. Worlds collide.
Yeah, I know. I think he was the first sports star to be in a movie.
Okay.
As in to make that transition.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there've been cameos, but
he's in quite a lot of films as well, which you don't really like. I think
for some reason his reputation's been damaged. Yeah.
Well, I think people of our generation probably only know him as like, you know, because of the murder trial.
Yeah, the Bronco chase.
Yeah. But then he just pops up in loads of films like The Naked Gun.
Yeah.
He's in with Leslie Nielsen, who is in The Poseidon Adventure next week.
More on that next week. But I think I realised something watching this film, and it's in Airplane, speaking of Airplane, the co-pilot is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who's the NBA player, and they just make a big deal like, you're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he's like, no, I'm a pilot.
Yeah.
Is that just like taking the piss out of the fact that they got O.J. Simpson in this disaster film? And I assume there's other films as well.
Because Airplane is obviously a parody of disaster films.
So is it just like, there must be other films where there's sports stars in them?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're supposed to not notice.
I guess so, yeah. I wonder if there's any like, you know, really on the nose sportsman cameos, you know, like where they
like in Mr. Deeds when John McEnroe shows up and he's just John McEnroe.
Yeah. So we move on as ever, Joe, to actual survival tips. So do you have any ideas on how you'd survive the Towering Inferno?
Well, as I said earlier, you have 7 seconds when a fire goes without going out on its own to evacuate.
So unless you can run 100 metres in 7 seconds.
Yeah.
Well,
presumably the fire doesn't just instantly engulf the room. But I mean, it's not going to burn out on its own is the point. So that is one tip. Here's another. We mentioned that the gondola isn't quite up to carrying more than one person.
Yeah.
But we also see the helicopter capably lift the scenic elevator, which holds at least 12 people.
Yeah.
Why not just take that up and use that? And
it's not the most sturdy of like how it. What? So you like hang it near the window?
But just put it on the hook with instead of the chair.
Yeah, but that's a different set of ropes. Because the ropes for the breeches buoy go from the building to an adjacent building.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
you can't get to the top of a building with a helicopter.
Yeah, but then like the helicopter is just holding the elevator like straight. There's a different level of force for it to pull on a cable that's like in the middle of 2 points, isn't there?
All right. Well, here's an idea.
Okay.
You wrap the ropes or new ropes around the scenic elevator, feed them into the floor where you're rescuing people from, and they can pull it in, so it's like nice and snug.
Yeah.
You load it up with people, helicopter takes off, takes it over, but the ropes stay in, so you can still keep a hold of it and pull it back in when you need it. So it's anchored at all times. Yeah. That's it.
I'm not sure. I don't think that the whole helicopter elevator thing was sturdy or safe enough for them to want to try it more than once. Like, because let's not forget, that wasn't like their plan. It wasn't like, right, what we'll do is we'll put you in the scenic elevator, you'll go down about 30 floors and then there'll be an explosion and then we'll have to quickly get a helicopter to lift you off the side of the building to safety.
Yeah, and 2 people fall off and die.
Exactly, yeah. And one of them's like very close to being killed as well.
But, that said, do you think that my plan would not work?
I'm not sure. I'm sure there could be some. There's you know there's the potential for a sort of bigger breeches buoy that's, you know, more adept at carrying more people. But I just don't know whether or not I don't know whether this first draft of the concept is necessarily one that's going to take off.
I take your point that the scenic elevator weighs significantly more than a chair.
Yeah, than one pair. Because that breeches buoy looks like it's designed to be as lightweight as possible.
Yeah, it's basically like a school assembly chair.
Yeah, exactly.
Plastic.
Like, yeah. With a little, like a cursory seat, like lap belt. Yeah. Returning to Mr. Bigelow and his mistress, he says, I used to run the 100 in 10 flat.
Yeah.
Right. Which, as we've established, is probably not fast enough. But, theoretically, were you able to run fast enough, maybe, and this is putting it out there, Joe.
Right.
Maybe you could run so fast that you displace the air around the fire to the extent that it smothers the fire instantly. A bit like blowing out a candle. Or if you're holding a lighter and you swing the lighter around and it puts the flame out.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
How fast can you run?
Well, let's assume that a hypothetical man found himself in this scenario.
A hypothetical man.
A hypothetical man who could hypothetically run.
Well, they said the fastest.
Well, because
man...
when you run, you displace air, right? That's a fact.
All right. So okay. Let's take Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Who, at time of recording, is the fastest sprinter in the world.
Yeah.
Were he to be in that room instead of Dan Bigelow, would he be able to blow out the fire, so to speak, by running past it?
Yeah.
The answer is no.
Where's your evidence for this?
Well, it's not like it's a candle. The entire room is
but you got
ablaze.
I mean,
it's like going in an oven.
Would it or would it not? Would you or would you not have more of a chance if you ran that than if you ran at the pace of 10 meters a second?
If you ran faster than he does, basically.
Yeah. Would you have more chance or less chance, Joe? That's what I'm asking.
Minimal difference.
Also, interesting to note that he goes for the wet towel on the head.
Yes.
Tactic.
To little effect.
Yeah,
almost.
well, because he catches fire seemingly almost immediately. Cotton burns at 120 degrees Celsius, which is 250 degrees Fahrenheit.
Is that wet cotton as well?
Well, what I was going to say was that at that temperature, the water is going to be boiling anyway.
Yeah, it would burn off pretty quickly.
And the last thing you want, really, is a towel of boiling water wrapped around your head.
Steam burns.
I mean, you don't want any of it.
No.
Like, let's not pretend.
Yeah.
Like, there's no good... there's no good part about the whole situation.
No, steam burns are nasty as well.
Scalding.
Yeah.
I don't think he's probably got
bigger fish
worries.
to fry. Yeah. I mean, Usain Bolt, to bring back to if he was running in, say, his
lycra,
his sprinting gear, that would catch fire, but he doesn't wear much of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe,
but also, does lycra burn
more quickly?
Yeah.
Is the trick to do it naked?
Maybe. Well, like douse yourself in water and then run through it.
It'll burn off. Maybe.
Well, skin catches fire at 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. Burns.
You'd be dead by then.
Yeah, you would be. Because it's not the burning necessarily that kills you, it's the
everything else. Unable to breathe.
Yeah.
Oof.
Interestingly, this week's films and next week's film are the classic debate of would you rather burn to death or drown?
Yeah. Probably drown.
Yeah.
I don't know, because dying of smoke inhalation, that seems...
Does anyone die of smoke inhalation?
No, that's the thing, they don't.
Dan Bigelow's mistress almost dies of smoke
but then
inhalation.
she stands up and catches fire.
That's the mistake.
Yeah.
Mistake everyone's... How to survive.
Because if she stayed down,
low.
she'd have passed out and then
Yeah.
probably... It would make painful to die of suffocation, probably, but...
It doesn't look like she's enjoying it
No.
to that point. At least she throws herself out the window dramatically.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so she smashes the window, which then causes a...
Backdraft?
Yeah, which then propels her seemingly out of the window on fire. In one of the many, as I said, public deaths.
Bad way to go.
Yeah. You can base jump from buildings of that height.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Because, I mean, it's nasty to draw a comparison with it, but it's impossible not to, really. The World Trade Center attack, I mean, that's in everyone's living memory.
Yeah.
I remember when that happened, someone I know said to me, they said that it wouldn't have been a problem for them.
Yeah.
Because they would have just broken the window. If this is the top floor.
Yeah.
They'd have broken the window and just torn up the carpet and held it at arm's length and used it as a parachute.
Held it at arm's length?
Yeah. And I said, that wouldn't work. And he said, well, you can't take up the carpet. And he said, you break a table and use the flat surface of the table as like a windbreak and just glide down to the ground
gracefully and walk off.
We were 11 when that happened, so forgivable perhaps, but
possibly.
But he was adamant.
Yeah,
So, like I say, pull up the carpets.
Yeah, well, pull up the carpets, or there's the bit where they say to Stephen Queen's character that he's because it plays out almost as though he's going to be sent on a suicide mission, and then it's like, oh no, actually it's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, because they say to him, oh, there's only 2 people qualified to do it, and we'd never ask you to do it, and he's like, oh, so they're gonna.
No, he says, how do you get back down? And he's like, well, that's the thing.
Yeah, and he goes, oh, I see. Like,
And I thought it was like he has to blow it up and kill himself.
Exactly. Yeah. And even like the timer is, he says like the detonator. Sorry, he says yours is timed and mine's instant.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be like, if I die, then you can press it and like get out beforehand.
Yeah.
But then by that point, I was thinking, well, why is he staying?
Why is he even there?
Yeah. Like, so. But like even so, like that turned out to not be necessary. But at the time, I thought, well, why can't they give him a parachute?
Yeah.
And have him like leap off, because like I know, like controlling a parachuting and all that sort of thing is a difficult skill for someone who's never done it before.
Right. Yeah.
And you've got to master landing and controlling the parachute and everything. I'd still take my chances over definitely dying in a fire.
Here's another point. How did he get up there?
The helicopter, isn't it? No.
Why did they wait for him?
No.
5 minutes. I'll be right back out.
Oh, but they have to like hover above the thing, don't they? And they presumably be affected by the explosion.
I don't know, because I suppose because it could have blown the roof off the building, hasn't it?
My final method of survival: find other ways to get back at your in-laws, because there seems to be an element of like spite to Roger's changing of the electrical components.
Well, I don't know so much. You finish what you're going to say, and we can discuss.
Because the way he's talking about it, it's almost like he knew that something like this might happen, but he's like, well, you wanted me to save money. I'm just doing as you tell me, as I always do. Like sort of cutting off his nose to spite his face.
Right.
Yeah. But what were you?
Well, I read that differently. I read it as, where do you think the money went? Like, you told me to do it.
Yeah.
So he's passing a buck. He shouldn't have done it. And now he's like, well, you literally knew this was going to happen. So
yeah. Well,
I think they're both as bad as each other.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I still think that there's an obvious level of resentment there between him and his father-in-law.
Yeah, he even says as much to the daughter.
Yeah, so I think that, some other things that he could have done, just making sort of snide comments, like all the time, just, maybe about decoration.
Yeah.
Not like backhanded compliments and things like, a lot of people don't like that sort of colour.
Yeah.
Or, you have to be very brave to have this sort of furniture in the living room. Things like that. Insisting on paying for things at all times because you're undermining his,
his authority.
Authority and masculinity. Making reference to his advanced age.
Right. Yeah.
Every opportunity.
So we'll put you in a home soon or something.
Like things that he can't be like, no, don't say that, because it's like, I got to take it as a joke. But deep down he's going to be burning inside. And insisting that you're going to be the one to carve any sort of cooked meat at any family dinners because you know better. Maybe say, I've been on a course. I've been on that course. So I think I'll know better. And just undermining him whenever you can at every opportunity. And then that way, maybe if there was that motivation for why he changed the electrical plans around a little bit, then that would have been better served being facilitated in another way.
Passive aggressive. Passive aggressive rather than
passive aggressive in a sense that's going to get 200 people killed.
In a building regulations way.
Yeah,
but it still passes building regulations. Importantly, so here's my advice: get better building regulations.
Yeah,
if it can pass building regulations,
it's 1974. This is the tallest building in the world.
Well, so there's no building regulations.
No, but maybe it's just that the building regulations aren't like I mean, you're still right, but I'm just maybe the reason is because this sort of building is like a first of its kind sort of thing.
But it's an electrical fault.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming electrics don't change if you just add more electrics.
No, but it does, because it's an overloading of the circuits, which is what causes it. And part of that is because there's lights on every floor, which they turn on all the lights on every floor.
I have a different fuse box on every floor.
Yeah, but I think they do, and that's what blows up.
Yeah, you're right.
Because it's not like the central generator that blows up.
You've blown a fuse in the house before.
Yeah.
Did it catch fire? or they just turn off?
No, but then presumably that's because the electrics in our house are capable of handling the voltage or the charge that are going through them. And the implication is that because he changed around the schematics and the components, they're not up to standard for handling that amount of power.
So it's like sending a big spark.
Yeah, well, because I don't know, maybe it's like that they're in serial rather than parallel.
Yeah.
Although
a series circuit and a parallel. Because I was saying, like, if one light bulb blew, the whole building would go out.
Yeah, but so they must be on parallel circuits.
Yeah, in which case you wouldn't think it would be overloaded in that way.
Unless it must be something to do with the 81st floor. Assuming that they're all the same components and they're all the same level of wear or whatever, then it must be something to do with the 81st floor that caused it. Maybe, when they were saying, you've got to give me the list of tenants because I need to know if there's any clients that have, whose products might release toxic gas or something like that. Maybe it was like tanning beds. Or like,
or like toasters in bathtubs.
Yeah.
The toaster and bathtub emporium.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that was my final comment, really.
Well, fair enough. I don't have anything more to say. I think should either of us have been in that situation, we probably would have burned to death pretty quickly.
Probably, yeah. I mean, they say as much in the film that there's not a lot that you can do.
No.
Much like the film that we're going to be covering next week.
Yeah.
Which is 1972. The Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that film.
Okay.
I think perhaps more than the Towering Inferno.
Okay. So that'll be interesting. Yeah. Interesting to discuss next week.
If you want to hear me excited about a movie, and do come back next week. And in the meantime, if you've seen the Poseidon Adventure, and you want to tell us how you think you could survive in it, for those who don't know, it's just the boat that capsizes and then
it's a cruise ship. It's not just like a dinghy.
No.
It's not just like just swim out.
They're trapped in a capsized cruise ship.
Yeah.
How would you survive that? Email in to howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. Just like our new favourite listener, Gemma, who says, "Hi guys, first off, love the show. You've covered a few of my favourite movies, and I'm going to binge on the last few episodes this week. So why aren't you up to scratch already?"
Yeah. Slacking.
Yeah. She suggests that we cover a movie called Willow Creek from 2013, which is about a Yeti attack.
Okay.
So a bit unusual. And we plan these a few months in advance, so we've put that in there. Yeah. So keep an eye out in the near future for Willow Creek.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll pair it with some other sort of mythological monster movie.
Sure. And if you, listener, other than Gemma, have any suggestions for a movie we should cover, that email again is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com.
And in the meantime, go to howtosurviveshow.com, where you'll find our back catalogue of all the previous episodes, as well as links to buy each of the films that we've covered in each episode if you want to watch them or own them yourself.
Or head over to iTunes and leave us a review of what you thought of the show in general. 5 stars is literally all we accept, so please keep it at 5.
Yeah. So thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks very much.
We may never love like this again. Don't stop